Deep in the heart of the jungle, beyond the rivers no map dares to mark, lies a place untouched by man, a place ruled by something far more powerful. The air is thick with mist, the towering trees standing like silent guardians over a world lost in time. Every creature here knows its place, every shadow hides a secret, and every step into this forbidden land feels like an intrusion. The stories have been told, whispers of explorers who never returned, of distant roars that sent shivers down the spines of even the bravest hunters. There are warnings, carved into old stone, painted in fading red on ancient trees. Turn back. Leave while you can. But curiosity is a dangerous thing. And now, deep within this vast green abyss, the presence of man has been noticed. The jungle watches, the leaves tremble, and in the darkness, something moves, heavy, slow, powerful. A deep breath echoes through the silence, not human, not safe. Then, two glowing amber eyes pierce through the shadows, unblinking, locked onto their prey. And before the mind can register what is happening, before a scream can even form, the jungle erupts. The ground shakes, the trees quake, and a roar unlike anything ever heard before splits through the air, shaking bone and soul alike. This is not just any beast. This is the ruler of the wild, the king of the forgotten world. Welcome to the gorilla's territory. For years, the legend of the great silverback has been whispered among those who dare to explore the uncharted depths of the jungle. A creature unlike any other, massive, intelligent, and fiercely territorial. Some believe it is the last of an ancient bloodline, a beast that has ruled this land for centuries, untouched by the modern world. Others claim it is a myth, a story crafted by those who fear what they cannot control. But for Dr. Samuel Carter and his team, the legend is more than just a tale. It is a discovery waiting to be made, a discovery that could change everything. Dr. Carter, a renowned primatologist, has spent his entire career studying the great apes of the world, but nothing has ever fascinated him like the stories of this elusive silverback. Reports speak of its unnatural size, its ability to disappear into the jungle without a trace, and its chilling intelligence. If they can find it, if they can document its existence, it could be the key to unlocking secrets of primate evolution that have been lost to time. Alongside him is Elena Torres, a wildlife photographer whose lens has captured some of the rarest creatures on Earth. Determined, fearless, and relentless in her pursuit of the perfect shot, she is willing to venture into the unknown for the chance of a lifetime. Then there's Daniel Hayes, a survivalist and tracker, a man who has spent more nights in the jungle than in civilization. He knows the dangers that lurk beneath the trees, the silent predators that watch from above, and the rules that must never be broken. But even he is uneasy about this journey. Their guide, an old man with eyes that have seen too much, stands at the edge of the jungle, his expression grim. He does not speak of the stories. They all know them already. But his silence is a warning in itself. Finally, after a long moment, he speaks. This is the gorilla's territory. Many who enter never return. His voice is low, his tone filled with something that could be fear or maybe respect. But the team is undeterred. They have come too far to turn back now. With their cameras, notebooks, and equipment in hand, they step forward, crossing the invisible boundary into the unknown. The jungle swallows them whole. The air is humid, thick with the scent of damp earth and ancient life. Insects hum in an endless chorus, unseen creatures rustle through the undergrowth, and the towering canopy above allows only slivers of light to break through. Each step is careful, deliberate. Every sound, every movement feels amplified in the silence. Then they begin to notice the signs. Massive footprints embedded deep in the mud, wider than any normal gorilla's should be. Strange claw marks raking the bark of trees, far too high to belong to any known predator. A broken branch, fresh, as if something Something big has just passed through. A sudden snap of a twig makes them freeze. They exchange uneasy glances, muscles tensed, breath held. The jungle is no longer just a backdrop to their adventure. It is alive, watching, waiting, and somewhere, hidden within the shadows, the ruler of this land has already sensed their presence. The deeper they go, the more the jungle seems to change around them. The trees grow thicker, their twisted roots gripping the earth like ancient fingers. Vines drape from the canopy like tangled webs, blocking out the sun and casting everything in an eerie green glow. The air is heavy, thick with the scent of damp earth and something else, something strange, almost musky. Every step feels like an intrusion, every movement followed by unseen eyes. Dr. Carter walks ahead, carefully studying the broken branches and the massive footprints embedded in the mud. His fingers trace the deep grooves carved into a tree trunk, marks too large for any known gorilla. "This isn't just one," he mutters under his breath. "There are more of them." His voice is quiet, but the weight of his words settles over the group like a storm cloud. Elena tightens her grip on her camera, scanning the dense foliage for any sign of movement. The jungle is loud with the calls of unseen creatures, but beneath it all, there is something else. A distant, rhythmic sound. A low, steady thudding. Faint at first, almost like the heartbeat of the forest itself. But with each step forward, it grows louder. Hayes stops abruptly, holding up a hand. The others halt, their ears straining. The thudding continues, slow, powerful, measured. The unmistakable sound of a gorilla beating its chest. No one moves. No one breathes. Then, just as suddenly as it started, the sound stops. The silence that follows is worse than the noise. It stretches on, thick and suffocating. Hayes exhales slowly, his voice barely above a whisper. "It knows we're here." The guide, who has been silent for most of the journey, suddenly speaks. "We should turn back." His voice is firm, more serious than before. But Dr. Carter shakes his head. They have come too far. They are on the edge of a discovery that could change history. "Just a little farther," he insists. "We need to see it." Reluctantly, the team presses on. The jungle seems to grow darker, the path narrower. Then they reach it, a clearing, silent and untouched, as if no human has ever stepped foot here before. In the center stands something remarkable, an ancient stone structure, partially consumed by the jungle, its carvings worn by time, but still visible beneath the moss and vines. Elena raises her camera, snapping photos. "What is this place?" she whispers. But before anyone can answer, a deep growl rumbles through the air. Not distant this time, not a warning. Close, too close. The team turns as one, their eyes searching the dense shadows at the clearing's edge. Then they see them. Eyes. Dozens of them, glowing in the dim light. The jungle has come alive around them. Figures move in the shadows, shifting between the trees. Low grunts and deep breaths fill the space. The first flicker of real fear passes between the explorers. They are not alone. They have stepped into something ancient, something sacred. And now, the rulers of this land have come to meet them. The air is thick with tension. No one moves, no one speaks. The glowing eyes in the shadows remain fixed on them, unblinking, unreadable. Then, from the darkness, a figure steps forward. Massive, towering, muscles rippling beneath dark, matted fur. The silverback gorilla emerges from the trees, his enormous frame nearly blending into the jungle around him. His chest rises and falls in slow, deliberate breaths, his deep amber eyes locked onto the intruders. He is not afraid, he is not startled. He has been watching them, studying them, judging them. Dr. Carter swallows hard, his fingers trembling as he slowly reaches for his notebook. Elena grips her camera but does not dare raise it. Hayes shifts his weight, his instincts screaming at him to back away, to turn and run. But he knows better. Running means death. Running means inviting a chase they will never win. The gorilla takes a step forward, his massive hand pressing into the damp earth, his knuckles sinking deep into the mud. Then another step. And another. The distance between them shrinks. His sheer presence is suffocating, his every movement deliberate and controlled. He does not charge. He does not roar. He simply watches. Behind him, more figures appear. A troop. Smaller gorillas, lingering in the shadows, their dark forms barely visible against the jungle. But they do not move. They wait. This is no ordinary encounter. This is a test. The silverback is making a decision, one that will determine whether the intruders leave this place alive. Dr. Carter knows this. He has studied primate behavior for years. Slowly, carefully, he lowers his gaze, avoiding direct eye contact, a sign of respect, of submission. His breath is slow, measured. He dares not make a sudden move. For a moment the jungle is silent. Then, without warning, the silverback rises onto his hind legs. His full height is staggering, dwarfing any human in his presence. His broad chest expands, and with one powerful motion, he beats his fists against it. A thunderous sound erupts, echoing through the trees like a drum of war. The force shakes the air, sending a flock of birds scattering into the sky. The message is clear. This is his land, his kingdom, his territory. The explorers do not belong here. Hayes tightens his grip on his machete, his instincts battling his reason. But then, just as the tension reaches its breaking point, the silverback lowers himself again, his breathing slow, steady. He does not attack. He does not retreat. He simply watches. A warning, a choice. The explorers must decide, stay or leave while they still can. A single breath. That's all it takes to shatter the fragile balance between man and beast. A slow, deep exhale from the silverback, his broad chest rising and falling, his amber eyes locked onto the intruders. The team remains frozen, caught in the suffocating grip of the moment. No one dares to move, to speak, to even blink. But then, a mistake. A quiet rustling. The soft, almost imperceptible sound of fabric shifting. A hand slowly reaching into a side pocket. Hayes notices first. His eyes flick to the movement, his stomach twisting. He knows what's happening before it even unfolds, but by the time he reacts, it's already too late. A metallic glint flashes in the dim jungle light. A tranquilizer gun, gripped tightly in the shaking hands of Marcus, the team's newest recruit. Fear has taken hold of him, sinking its claws deep into his mind. He isn't thinking, he isn't calculating, he just wants an escape. His breathing is uneven, erratic, and before anyone can stop him, he fires. The dart whistles through the air, time slows, a sharp thwip as the projectile buries itself into thick fur. Then, silence, a beat of pure, deadly quiet. The gorilla doesn't react at first, doesn't flinch, but then, his muscles tense, his deep, steady breaths become heavier, shorter. His fingers curl into the dirt, and then, he roars. The sound is deafening, shaking the very ground beneath them. The jungle explodes into chaos. The troop, once silent, erupts in a frenzy of movement. Branches snap, leaves scatter, panicked shrieks fill the air. The silverback's eyes blaze with fury, his massive arms swinging as he charges forward. The explorers scatter. Hayes yells something, but the roar drowns out his voice. Marcus stumbles, his face pale, his hand still gripping the useless tranquilizer gun. Before he can react, before he can move, a shadow falls over him. The gorilla's fist slams into the ground just inches from his body, sending dirt and debris flying. He reels back, scrambling to his feet, his breath coming in ragged gasps. "Run!" Elena's voice pierces through the chaos, her camera abandoned, her legs already carrying her away from the clearing. Dr. Carter grabs Marcus by the arm, pulling him back as the gorilla pounds his chest again, his rage reverberating through the trees. They run. The jungle blurs around them, vines and branches whipping past as they sprint blindly through the undergrowth. Behind them, the sounds of pursuit shake the world, the crashing of trees, the furious grunts and roars of creatures defending their land. Every step is a battle against the wild, the uneven ground threatening to pull them down. Then, a scream. One of them is missing. Hayes skids to a stop, eyes darting wildly. Marcus. He isn't with them. A sinking dread fills his stomach. He turns back, searching the tangled mess of jungle behind them. And then he sees him. Marcus, trapped. His foot caught between the twisted roots of an ancient tree, his face twisted in terror as the shadows around him move. The silverback is coming. Fast. Marcus struggles, his breath coming in sharp, ragged gasps as he yanks at his trapped foot. The roots are tight, unyielding, as if the jungle itself has decided to hold him in place. The roar of the silverback thunders behind him, shaking the very ground. He turns his head, his face pale with terror, sweat dripping down his forehead. The massive beast is closing in, its powerful arms swinging as it crashes through the undergrowth with terrifying speed. This is not just anger, this is judgment, punishment, a lesson to those who dare trespass. Hayes doesn't think. He moves. His instincts take over, pushing him forward as Marcus lets out a panicked cry. "Help me, please!" The jungle is alive with chaos, the other explorers barely visible through the thick foliage as they keep running, but Hayes refuses to leave Marcus behind. He drops to his knees, his hands desperately clawing at the roots. They won't budge. Time is slipping away. The gorilla's shadow looms over them, his massive form now just feet away. The deep, guttural sound of his breathing fills the space between them. There's no more time. Hayes makes a split-second decision. His machete flashes as he swings it down, slicing through the thick roots with everything he has. Once, twice, a third time. Finally, Marcus is free. The younger man stumbles forward, nearly falling, but Hayes yanks him up, his grip like iron. "Move!" he barks, shoving him ahead. They run. The silverback's roar follows them, the jungle itself trembling under its power. Branches snap behind them. Heavy footfalls shake the earth. It is right there. The path ahead is uneven, thick with vines and tangled roots. They can barely see where they're going, their bodies running on pure adrenaline. Then, suddenly, the edge. A sheer drop-off appears out of nowhere, a deep ravine cutting through the jungle floor. Marcus stumbles to a halt, nearly toppling over. Hayes grabs his arm just in time, pulling him back. Behind them, the silverback bursts through the trees, his massive form blocking the only way back. His breath is ragged, his chest heaving, his deep amber eyes burning with rage. There is nowhere left to run. Dr. Carter and Elena appear on the other side of the ravine, their eyes wide with horror. "Jump!" Elena shouts, but the drop is too far, too risky. Marcus shakes his head, panic gripping him again. "We won't make it." Hayes doesn't hesitate. He grabs Marcus by the shirt, his voice low and firm. "Then we die here." Marcus swallows hard. The silverback steps forward, his presence overwhelming, his gaze fixed on them. Another beat of silence. Then, it happens. The silverback stops, his breathing slows, his massive fists loosen from the dirt. He tilts his head slightly, studying them. The rage in his eyes flickers, replaced by something else. Understanding, recognition. The moment stretches, an unspoken decision hanging in the air. And then, he steps back. Just a single step. A choice. A warning. He isn't going to kill them. Not this time. Not today. The jungle belongs to him, and he has made his point. Slowly, deliberately, the silverback turns. His massive form melts back into the shadows, the jungle swallowing him whole once more. Marcus and Hayes remain frozen, their breath heavy, their hearts pounding. The others watch from across the ravine, barely believing what they've just witnessed. Finally, after what feels like an eternity, Hayes exhales. "Let's go." No one argues. No one looks back. They climb, they scramble, they run, escaping the gorilla's territory with their lives. But as they disappear into the dense green, one thing is clear: the jungle has spared them. This time. The jungle looms behind them, dark and endless, as they push forward, their bodies aching, their breaths shallow. The weight of what just happened hangs in the air, unspoken but undeniable. They have seen something few ever will. They have survived. Something that should have been impossible. But as they stumble through the dense undergrowth, exhaustion setting in, one question lingers in their minds. Why? Why did the silverback let them go? Why, after the invasion of its sacred land, after the threat, the chase, the battle, did it choose mercy? Dr. Carter walks in silence, his mind racing with theories. Was it intelligence? A recognition of their fear? A decision, calculated and deliberate? Or was it something deeper? A warning, not just to them, but to all who might come after. His hand tightens around his notebook, his fingers brushing over the pages filled with hastily scribbled notes. This discovery is bigger than any of them. Elena walks beside him, gripping her camera tightly, but for the first time in her career, she hasn't taken a single photo of what matters most. The silverback. The moment she had longed for, the shot that would have defined her career, had slipped through her fingers, but somehow, she doesn't regret it. Some things aren't meant to be captured. Some stories are meant to remain untold. Hayes, ever the survivalist, remains on edge, his instincts still sharp despite the distance they've put between themselves and the beast. He doesn't speak much, he doesn't need to. He knows they got lucky. Too lucky. Because in the wild, survival isn't granted, it's taken. And the fact that they are still breathing means one thing. They were allowed to leave. The thought unsettles him more than anything else. Then there's Marcus. He trails behind the group, his face pale, his hands still trembling from his near-death encounter. He is different now, changed. The jungle has left its mark on him, not just on his body, but on his soul. The reckless arrogance he carried when they first stepped into this place is gone, stripped away by the raw, unforgiving reality of nature. He has looked death in the eyes, and it looked back. The distant calls of howler monkeys echo through the canopy as they finally reach the edge of the jungle. Civilization lies just beyond, waiting like a world they had long forgotten. As they step out of the dense green into the first light of dawn, something inside them shifts. They have escaped. They have survived. But the jungle, it never truly lets you go. The silverback is still there, deep in the shadows, ruling over his land as he always has. A guardian, a king, a force that no human will ever control. And as they leave the gorilla's territory behind, they know one thing for certain. They were never the hunters. They were always the prey.